Hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So this one, I wanted to make this a little bit of like an extended version of the Peaceful Birth Masterclass, because so many of you are so touched and inspired. So many of you have messaged me and told me that you wanted to know more about the Peaceful Birth Masterclass. You wanted to watch the videos. And to me, that was so heartwarming that you were finding that information, that I was sharing my birthing story, or finding it valuable. So in this little training, I wanted to really go a little bit deeper. You know, it's almost like the reason I started all this, it was something that I wish I had been told back, before my first birth, like, all of these things. Like, a part of me still wishes that I wish I had known, because I have healed that experience. But in that experience, I came into it with sort of the expectations that I was just going to glide through it, and at some point I completely got disempowered. Anyway, so a part of me feels that if I can, for those who have, I feel so honored that you got sort of attracted to this information and drawn to this information. And I feel that if I could have a person, like a coaching, a chat, a conversation with every single one of you in person, and tell you maybe in a matter of like a 10 or 15 minutes, like, okay, just before your labor starts, whether or not it's your first or your 9th or 10th labor, but it doesn't really matter. Some of the things that perhaps you did not see in other resources, then this is it. So we're just doing this very quickly, and I will just focus, because a few of you have told me that you actually have got you're due like in the next few days, or even like weeks or even days. So I wanted to use this space to, instead of thinking, oh, maybe I will do this training one day, someday we'll do like either a Zoom chat or something like this. Like, if if we do this quickly now, and if you take one thing, and if that one thing makes a difference for one of you, like, that is all worth it. So I thought I would just jump on this quickly, and in between, just before I need to put my little one to bed today, and I will just do this. All right, so let's go first through so you all heard me go through the anti-sounding technique. So this one was something that actually was a really big revelation from from within. So actually, because I've done a lot of yoga and meditation prior to giving birth, but eventually at the third birth, I intuitively came to do this anti-sounding technique. So on every, which was I wanted to show here, because I think it might be a bit confusing. So what I actually did was, on the contraction, I was actually very slowly through the nose, inhaling, and then when contraction was the strongest, I would actually keep that inhale, like, we'll hold it, but in the meantime we'll actually be using almost the power of that contraction of, it's just the same thing we all experience during the Braxton Hicks, like throughout the whole, the last part of the pregnancy, most of us. And it's just that, like, the contracting feeling, but what you do, you actually use that contraction to direct it downward into your pelvic floor, into your vaginal area, and just relaxing it. So while you are holding the breath, you actually, like, physically relaxing those muscles. And I guess it just will take you a little bit of time. Maybe if you can start practicing before, that's a good idea. But I think during labor it actually will happen a lot more natural, because it's a bit more difficult you can actually practice with Braxton Hicks. You can actually imagine, like, relaxing instead of contracting on it. And this is how I felt. I felt it was like a current. It was actually going through me, and I was actually moving the baby without me having to push. Like, I did not push her a single time throughout the whole third labor process, because this is how I felt. Like it was actually this inner force within me, the contraction force was pushing her without me making any tense sound, which was something that I did, and it was really exhausting to me. So I'm not saying this is a right or wrong, but it was something that just, when I discovered it, the whole process, it was the third one was the shortest one for me, but the whole way through, like, I did not make a single sound. So that time it was something that it was just different from my 2 other births. But having said that, like, you just need to trust, like, this is what I would like you to do. The most important thing is just to have all of these possible options in mind, and then just really tuning in and really connecting with your heart. So this is the most important thing, is just to really long breathing through your heart, because you all have so much wisdom and so much intuition. So if you can connect to that intuition and to that flow within, and the intuitive body movement that helps with it, the breathing helps to do this, the long inhales and exhales help to do that, the intuitive sound. So if you feel like making a sound, that's an option. You can make that sound, and it can be a very gentle sound. Towards the end it can be a roaring sound, but as I'm saying, like, I've sort of experimented with different variations, and the second one was a very sounding labor for me. Like, first one was a water birth. I got into the water, if you are considering the water birth, I got into the water like at the first sign of contraction, because I wasn't sure it was my first pregnancy, first birth. So just, it was this massive fear of pain, of just not knowing, because we hear so much about it, and despite watching all of this positive, the Birth into Being movies and all the other ones, and reading all of the positive books, like, it was still like, we don't know, our body doesn't know. So the first one is like even more important, to give yourself a lot of space to just relax every single muscle. You might feel tension here, like, just go throughout your whole body, throughout the whole pregnancy, and just keep relaxing, releasing either physical tension or emotional and so on. But my point was, I didn't want to run away, was for the sounding. So this is what I did getting into the water. Well, I got into the water way too early, and to me it was quite an exhausting process. So looking back now, what not to do, I would recommend to not get into the birthing pool until the very, very last stage. But again, I'm not saying this is like, the best thing is to listen to your body, and just really, because that's what I found. The reason I actually regret doing it a little bit, because I felt quite constricted, and I felt that like the water was supposed to take away all of the pain, and it didn't. And then at some point I had to come out from the pool, and I was exhausted, and just that 2 minutes in the toilet was just a nightmare. I didn't think I was going to. So I was just complete opposite of my last birthing experience, when everything was a lot more flowy, and but again, no rules, right? So the second one I had it with a doula, and she was amazing. So what, in terms of, some of you are asking me what your partner could do. So the most beneficial thing I found was the pressing the back, the acupressure points at the very lower back from 2 sides on every single, and just holding them throughout the contraction. And my doula did it with like a warm hot towel, but warm with like just relatively hot, with some essential oils like the Terra Ice Blue. It was added into, obviously dissolved in the carrier oil, but just very quick little tips. So that was quite pain relieving, and combined with the sounding, she was doing the sounding with me. But I did not feel like getting into the water that time, although I did have a pool. Like, I actually didn't want, which was amazing. I never thought I would not want to get into the pool. And then with the third one, you read the story, was even like, it was a completely different experience. So we're all so unique, and our bodies are so unique. So the best thing we can do is just to really tune in and just to connect with the heart. Just breathing through your heart allows us to activate such a massive intuitive force. And from that space, this is how we do the anti-affirmation technique. We're actually getting present from that space in our hearts. Like, okay, so what blockage is present now? And it's like, okay, fear of this or fear of that, or I'm like, I'm afraid that this will not happen. And that is when we start going, we actually start releasing. So we're either releasing through repetition, we're actually saying like, I'm afraid that this will happen or this will not happen, and keep repeating it in your mind. I'm afraid of pain, I'm afraid of whatever outcomes you are afraid of not happening or happening. And then you just keep saying releasing, 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 or in your mind, or clearing, clearing, clearing. Or you can actually be whatever thought you have, not even feeling or emotion is like a strong feeling, but even the thought, like this is probably the easiest way to explain it, is to just keep almost erasing that thought that is disempowering you, right? Like the whatever that is. So again, with like very long breathing, and this is what you want to start as you're approaching, the time of your labor starting and throughout the labor. And this is obviously but it just gets like somehow like this whole climax, like there's so much uncertainty throughout the whole pregnancy. It brings up so much, but at the same time, all of that, there's such powerful energies at play that if we connect to them, then they become our allies, and like we work in a union with them, a little bit like the anti-sounding technique. Like if we actually use, it's almost like we use like they use the power of the windmills, of the wind, of the power of the water. So instead of resisting it, we work together with that beautiful energy. Like our bodies are so meant for birthing peacefully and just really intuitively and naturally, and whatever our choice is, wherever we are in the world, whatever we are, whether or not we're at home, whether or not we're choosing interventions or not. Like I really want to be clear, I'm not saying like there's one way that is better than other, but the most important thing we can do, regardless of where we are in the laboring process, in the pregnancy, is just trusting that we have all of the answers within. And the way to connect is by connecting through them, like breathing through the heart. And this is how you actually get shifted through the biggest, all the things that look like the biggest obstacles, look like the biggest challenging, look like the most overwhelming thoughts and emotions. And most of it is in our head, right? Most of it is not happening yet. Most of it is just that, like the biggest part is that either the anxiety or doubts, or like all of those blockages. And same with pain. Like this is why I think I've mentioned before, but what I guess the most important thing we can be doing throughout the whole process is just releasing, like, why do we believe that it's deep? It's really deep. It took me to I'm not exaggerating. It took me to the deepest place I've ever been in terms of my inner relations. And it was just this almost like this generational belief. Like we can't imagine how far along that started. So I don't want to project, but think about religion, some of the things that you got taught as a child, as you have witnessed as a teenager, as a young woman, some of the things your grandma has told you about her birthing experience. It's almost like we believe everything that has been told to us, and we make it true, but so we can rewrite that story, and we can accept those stories, but we can still have that knowledge that people have shared, but we don't need to take it on board as our truth. So this is what I find, that we can actually rewrite. We can unwrite the stories that are no longer, we can really, people obviously shared with us because they wanted to make sure that maybe that, we don't get in those, but in a way they sort of tend to disempower us, so we can, whatever, if you have been exposed to negative beliefs or stories about birth, about pregnancy, about labor, then this is the time to actually release the belief, that we're not capable of having an easy labor, and so on and so forth. So you just keep thinking about, what else do I believe about labor, about pregnancy, about womanhood, about childbirth, and so on and so forth. Like, why? And just keep asking, why is childbirth painful? What is the worst thing that can happen? What am I afraid of? What else am I afraid of? And just keep shifting through those layers. All right, so the flower essences. So one last thing I think I would like, I'm cautious about the time, don't want to turn this into a really long video. But flower essences, I work a lot of them in my main holistic counseling, and for pain relief, some of them are fantastic. So I will put what I'm going to do. I did similar thing to a low energy, I did another low energy masterclass, and this is what I did. There's 4 flowers that you can work with for 4 hours, 4 flowers for pain, 4 flowers for energy levels, and 5 flowers for stress. So I'm going to create a web page, and I'm going to put all of those 12 or 15, something like this. And what you can do, it's very simple. So throughout the whole process, you can actually, or either like if you're working before, then you just go work with it throughout the whole pregnancy. But if you actually need to, you're feeling that things are not shifting, you're feeling stuck, then you just look at all of those flowers at the same time. So they'll be there just on the same page, and you find one that draws your attention the most. And I'd say you don't need to know what that flower, its emotional healing properties. You just trust that if you're drawn to that flower, you imagine yourself either inhaling, smelling that flower, standing in a circle like at a barren field, surrounded with those, like a circle of those flowers, or you imagine yourself inside of that flower. And I cannot tell you the importance and the power of that meditation, because sometimes meditation, it feels or sounds like something we're imagining, but it's not. Like this way you're actually able to connect to those to the healing properties of those flowers, and like this is how you allow them to help you to shift through those whatever blockages, like a deeper emotional blockages. All right, so I think I will complete here. My battery is also running out. So all the very, very best to you on your birthing journey, on your pregnancy journey, on your like after birth journey. And I told you I have a group, the Way of a Passionate Mom group, and if you feel like you want more information, then it's there for you. Like it's a place for all of us to connect. And so please come, and I will see you there then. So yes, big hug to all of you, all the very, 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 very best, and may you have the most peaceful birth that your body is capable of. Bye bye.